anything. Welcome to the home for the English curious. My name is Anine Lopsh. I'm an author as well as language confidence coach. So today we continue with the follow-up to English 1, and it's an introductory course. And today we continue with the low intermediate category, lesson 1. What you will need will be your smartphone. You will need internet connectivity. You will also need a translator to look up any words you do not understand. And so in this lesson, we are going to focus on English tenses. We are also going to pay particular attention to the present simple tense in order to improve our communication. We will expand on the conjugation of the present simple tense by looking at the affirmative and negative aspects. We will then look at practical application of the simple present tense to improve your communication, especially as it relates to fact and daily routine. So at this point, I need you to open your translator and search the meaning of any words like you do not understand. For instance, grammatical tense. Words like plural and singular are concepts I need you to understand. I also need you to look up sentence if this is unfamiliar to you. You can also look up the meaning of the word routine and fact if they're unfamiliar to you. Add to that list whatever you do not understand. So in the previous lessons, we have looked at the basic English sentence structure where you have a verb. So here we have our sentence, the man eats cake. And so in terms of its composition, the sentence composition, we have the subject here, which is the man, the verb, which is the doing word, and it's eats in this instance, and we have an object, which is the cake. So today I want to expand on that, particularly as it pertains to English tenses. So what you have on your screen is a breakdown of the present, past, and future tense and the various aspects such as simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. And in white and yellow, we have a breakdown of how modifications of the verbs or the sentence structure apply in relation to each of the tenses going across, in other words, present, past, future, and then your aspects. We will explore this in more detail in future sessions. For today, I want us to focus on present simple, okay? The present simple combination. And so the way the sentence modification applies in this instance would be, you'd have your subject and you have your verb in its first form, and then you add s or es added to the verb. So this is the verb form. Following that, you have your object. So that would be the singular format. And in plural format, which is more than one, two or more to be precise, you have your subject, and then you have your verb in its first form, and then your object. So the singular would be as it pertains to one person, like we have in the previous example, which talks about how the man is eating cake. So it says, the man eats cake. So if we go back to the formula, we have the subject plus the verb with either an s or an es, followed by the object, and when dealing with the plural, you would simply have the subject plus the verb in its first form, and then the object. Okay? Let's expand a little bit further on this. And I want to speak specifically about simple present as it applies to the affirmative. And I want to remind you at this point about the grammatical persons, which are always singular or plural. So you have I, me, my, mine, as it applies to the first grammatical person in singular aspect, and then we, us, our, and ours in the plural aspect as it applies to the first grammatical person. And then as it applies to the second grammatical persons category or aspect, you have you, yours, and your as it applies to the singular context, and it pretty much remains the same when dealing with the plural. And then you have the third grammatical voice or persons, which includes speaking of other people, such as he, she, it, him, and her, as it applies to boy and girl. And then you have his, her, hers, and its in the singular category. And when you move on to the plural, that of course becomes they, them, their, and theirs. So when you are dealing with the grammatical persons and the conjugation table, you must always bear this in mind. Okay? This application needs to be considered in order to assist you with proper conjugation of your verbs. So for example, on the right of the screen, I have I, you, we, and they, the grammatical persons. Okay, and we have verbs in yellow: play, go, live, finish, watch, and guess. So can you see how in making affirmative statements, the verbs pretty much remain the same when you are making an affirmative statement in the simple present tense. So it's I play chess with my colleague. You play chess with my colleague. We play chess with my colleague. And they play chess with my colleague. And the same applies to the remainder of the sentences, such as I go to the shops with my friend. You go to the shops with my friends. We go to the shops with my friend. They go to the shops with my friend. And it continues with I live in Britain. You live in Britain. We live in Britain. They live in Britain. I finish class at 1 p.m. You finish class at 1 p.m. We finish class at 1 p.m. They finish class at 1 p.m. And the second last example is I watch television after eating. You watch television after eating. We watch television after eating. They watch television after eating. And lastly, I guess homework exercise answers. You guess homework exercise answers. We guess homework exercise answers. They guess homework exercise answers. So can you see how in the present simple affirmative statement, so it's in other words, you are making an affirmation in the present. So we are now going to move on to the contrast. If you look on this section, we have the affirmation, okay, in relation to I, you, we, they, okay? And in the parallel column, we have the affirmation in relation to he, she, it, Sarah, or John. This could be any name of people you know. And here you're still making an affirmative statement, but because you are speaking in relation to another, okay, there is a slight modification by adding the suffix s and es. As you can see, he plays chess with my colleagues. She goes to the shop with my friends. Sarah finishes class at 1 p.m. or John finishes class at 1 p.m. He watches television after eating. John guesses homework answers. Or to correct that, John guesses homework exercise answers. So these would apply in relation to these grammatical persons. Especially when dealing with simple present affirmative, okay? On the column below, we have the negative. We're contrasting this with the negative. Okay? And you will notice that the verbs here pretty much go back to their simple form. Okay? Like play, take, ride, and read. Can you see the verbs here in yellow? They pretty much go back to their simplest form. And then, of course, because it's the negative aspect, you need to add do not to your statement. Okay? Or you have the contracted version don't or does not. So on the far left we have the grammatical persons, and then we have the negative aspect in the middle or here in the center, and then we have the remainder of the sentence examples. So let us try and create some sentences. I do not play games. Okay, so you say do not or don't play games. You do not play games. We do not play games. They do not play games. He does not play games. She does not play games. It does not play games. Sarah does not, and John does not play games. And the same apply to sentences. The remainder of the sentences here we have as examples like take the train to school and ride a bicycle to, or ride a bicycle full stop, or read books before bedtime. Let's move on to the next step. So you will see that upon analysis, the simple present is used to state facts. For example, I live in Britain, or you live in Britain. We live in Britain. Okay? They live in Britain. So that's a matter of fact. Used to express actions, such as finish class at 1 p.m. So these are daily actions, specifically daily actions, okay? And also simple present is used to express daily routine, such as watch television. So can you think of more examples around statement of facts, statements of daily routine, and statements of daily actions you can apply for your context to help with your communication in the simple present tense. I would love to hear about that. So I want to wrap up at this point and give you some practical exercises in the end. But before that, I want to remind you that in this lesson, we've learned about tenses and their function. We've learned about the simple present tense and how to communicate facts and routine using this particular tense. Okay, on to practical exercises. You can go and create 4 sentences about yourself using the present simple tense. Furthermore, ensure that these sentences include 1 fact, 1 routine, 1 negative aspect, okay, and 1 positive aspect.